What's up guys, Brian Grant here of ContestChampion.com. Welcome to another Mastery Building video. Today's Mastery build is going to focus around champions that want to apply bleeds, want to take as little damage as possible, and don't have any drawbacks such as recoil or any of the suicide masteries for that matter. And maybe sneak in a little bit of extra healing as well. So let's just get straight into the build. You can see here that I have 7 mastery points remaining, and I'll give you guys my advice of what to do with those 7 mastery points after I cover kind of the baseline build that I have going on here. This build is going to center around deep wounds, and then inequity and resonate on the right side of the defensive tree here. So if you missed out on my inequity and resonate mastery testing, I will post a link to that video in the description, so you can check that out for yourself. You can see the numbers for yourself and see if this is a mastery that you are interested in. So let's just get right into the build here. The first half of the offensive tree is kind of the standard 15 points that you're going to have for pretty much every single build in the entire game, right? This is the core 15 in the offensive tree here, ending with 5 out of 5 precision and 5 out of 5 cruelty. So what else is left here for the baseline build in the offensive tree? Well, we definitely want deep wounds 5 out of 5, right? This is going to extend the bleeds. This is going to be your major source of damage for this build. You have to get despair, 1 point in despair as a prerequisite, and then I think that 1 point in assassin is absolutely amazing as a value pickup. When it comes to the additional 4 points, it's kind of debatable about how useful they actually are, but the first point in assassin is incredible. So if you're worried about not having enough units to max out assassin, don't worry. Just pick up the 1 point though. You will not regret getting that 1 point. Alright, when it comes to the defensive tree here, the first 15 points on the left side, this is my personal standard 15 points on the left side. It's kind of debatable if you want to change this up a little bit, but in my opinion, having block proficiency is almost essential. It reduces the damage by quite a bit, by approximately 10%. Give or take, it's a little bit more than 10% for champions that don't have the strongest baseline block proficiency. It's a little bit weaker for champions that already have a very strong block proficiency due to diminishing returns. And then you're also going to reduce the damage that you take when you're parrying by a significant amount. In my testing, I found that it was like 35% or something like that. You reduce it by a lot, actually, with that mastery. So I feel like that mastery is absolutely essential. When it comes to the healing masteries up here, Salve, I feel like Salve is not the strongest mastery, especially for champions that are already going to have some baseline healing in this build, like Wolverine or X23. I feel like it's not needed. However, recovery here is absolutely great for those champions. So I do think that maxing out recovery is a very solid option. And then in order to fill out the 15 points needed here to jump over to the right side, I do prefer having 1 point into energy resistance and 4 points into physical resistance, just because the majority of incoming damage is physical. You can certainly balance that out if you want and have 2 points in energy resistance, 3 points in physical resistance, something like that if you choose. If you really want Salve, then you can take out the 2 points in physical resistance, but again, this is my preferred setup. When it comes to the right side of the tree, I have 1 point into willpower. Because I'm not running the suicide builds, I feel like 1 point is all that's absolutely needed. It's not a terrible idea to put more points into this. There are definitely times where you're going to be healing from it. Even if you're not getting hit, there are champions that when you attack into them, they trigger a debuff on you, and you can get some healing from that. Some of the opponents in Alliance Quest even. So it's not a terrible idea to max this out, but 1 point is all that is absolutely required. And then when it comes to inequity and resonate over here, again, that testing is going to be in the video in the description if you missed out on that one. But you're basically going to be reducing damage depending on how many debuffs you have on the opponent. So this is where it definitely comes into play, having that deep wounds mastery maxed out. You're going to be applying these bleeds and reducing the incoming damage whenever the opponent has those bleeds on them. Same thing with resonate here. This resonate is kind of a standalone debuff that you put on the opponent that also reduces their attack. And like I mentioned in the previous video, this is something that is not affected by the diminishing returns of having stuff like physical resistance and block proficiency. This is a new number thrown into the equation where you're reducing the opponent's attack. So you do get more benefit out of reducing the opponent's attack than you do from having additional physical resistance or armor or anything like that. So these are 2 very, very strong masteries if played right. And you're going to reduce the opponent's attack by a lot. If you're not playing with a bleed champion, if you have to use a different champion that is not applying bleeds, then this resonate debuff does count for one debuff for inequity here. So you're going to have 13 percent reduction, and then 6% reduction as well. Having 3 points in Resonate is not absolutely required. You can get by with only having 1 point here if you absolutely need the points for something else. But I do think that you know, for the additional 2 points, I do think it's worth maxing out. So that's just my personal take on it. All right, so that is the defensive tree here. When it comes to utility, this is my own personal kind of standard baseline utility setup here, where I have 1 point into dexterity, 3 points into parry for that additional damage reduction, not for the additional stun length, just for the additional damage reduction. And then I have 3 points in a Stupefy for mostly for the evasion champions. You really don't need that additional stun in most cases. The stun, I feel like it helps most when you're landing a parry on a champion like Spider-Man or Ultron or Nightcrawler that has a very annoying evade ability, and you can get in a good 3 or 4 hits just during that parry stun, and then back out and play the fight very safely that way, since they cannot evade when they are stunned. So that's why I prefer to have 3 points in a Stupefy. You can get by with having only 2 points, or even not having any points at all, but I do feel like having that is almost in the essential category when it comes to picking the right mastery build. So that's the setup, guys. You're basically going to be applying bleeds, which will reduce damage from Inequity and Resonate. These are my preferred mastery setups here. You can copy this exactly as is and be pretty set when it comes to having a solid mastery build that you can use in all areas of the game, including Alliance War. Now, previously you could not use a build like this in Alliance War just because if the opponents had Willpower, then you could not really have this Resonate debuff to put on them because they would be gaining a lot of health, a massive amount of health actually. But now that Resonate heals the opponent based off of their base life, I feel like it's not that big of a deal. And a lot of people are dropping Willpower as is, so a lot of the times you're coming across opponents that don't even have Willpower, but even if they do, you're not healing them for all that much, and the additional reduction of damage I feel like is still a benefit. So let's get into those additional 7 points then. Where can you possibly put these 7 points? Well, first off, let's talk about Mystic Dispersion here. Now, if you want to max out Mystic Dispersion, you actually need an additional 8 points. You need another 3 points in the left half here, and then you can have up to 5 points into Mystic Dispersion. So if you do want to go this route, you certainly can. My recommendations for taking out a point would be only having 2 points into Resonate here. So remove one of these points, and then you can go ahead and pick up Mystic Dispersion. If you don't want Mystic Dispersion, then I feel like the points are best spent in the offensive mastery tree, and there's a couple of options here. There is the very situational Despair mastery, where if you're applying these bleeds and you're applying the Resonate debuff, you're going to be able to almost completely cut out all healing on the opponent if you have Despair maxed out. I feel like it is a very situational mastery, though. It's not something that you want to run at all times. I feel like the points are better spent elsewhere when it comes to a day-to-day mastery build, but that's certainly an option. Assassin here is another option. I feel like if you're just gonna start adding damage, though, I feel like the first point you want to add is into Courage here. So get 1 point into Courage, and then you'll have 6 mastery points to play around with. And my opinion on it is you want to go something between having Assassin and Glass Cannon here. If you really don't want to deal with the reduced health of Glass Cannon, which personally I don't think is a big deal having that reduced health, but if you don't want to deal with that, then go with Assassin. If you don't mind taking that little bit of damage reduction, if you don't mind taking that little bit of health reduction, then Glass Cannon will provide more damage for you overall versus Assassin. So, me personally, I would go with Glass Cannon and then dump the rest of the points I have into Assassin. What if you don't want Glass Cannon, though? Well, like I said, you want 1 point into Courage, so you have 6 points left over. You can pick up 4 points here, which leaves you an additional 2 points, and then there's not a great place for those 2 points, to be honest. I might throw them in Despair just to have it so that I don't need to switch when I am going up against a healing champion or something like that. The other place that I might look to put them is Lesser Precision, which again is really not the best place. But a lot of champions rely on critting the opponent to apply that bleed, which is why I would choose here to dump those kind of leftover points, just because you're gonna keep those bleeds up slightly higher, slightly you know, you'll be able to keep up more stacks of bleeds than the opponent over the long run by having points there. Which reminds me, if you don't have a lot, if you don't have an unlimited supply of units, then that is actually not the most terrible place to dump the rest of your points, right? If you want to pick up, you know, this baseline build here, and then you could throw 1 point into courage, you can max out lesser precision, and you know, do something else from there with the remaining 2 points that you have. But that's really not a bad option. The final option that I have here is when it comes to going a very defensive build here. Something to keep in mind is science or serum science, which can reduce your the amount of damage that you're taking from energy attacks and special abilities and that kind of thing by a lot. If you have this maxed out, I haven't done the testing myself yet, but 960 energy resistance is a lot. Before the update, this was a 36%, I believe 36%, yes, 36% energy damage reduction, and I'm guessing it's something very similar to that with this 960 number. So it's definitely a good option to reduce a lot of damage. Again, it's different kind of damage reduction than just reducing the attack of the opponent, so the two play very nicely together when it comes to diminishing returns. So that's basically the options. Me personally, again, what I would do with the remaining 7 points is I would put 3 points into Glass Cannon, I'd put 1 point into Courage, and then I would put the remaining leftover points into Assassin, which would not be enough to max out the ability, but it would be, you know, it's the next best source of damage increase. So that's basically my build, guys, when it comes to Deep Wounds and Resonate. Let me know if you guys enjoy this kind of thing, if you've tried out a similar build and your experiences with it. And I guess that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care.